Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to explore the differences between inverse kinematics, commonly known as IK, and forward kinematics, or FK. Now, if you're hearing those two terms for the first time, or if you've heard of them before, but have no idea what they mean, then this video is for you. We'll tackle what they mean, how to use them, and most importantly, when you should use them. Let's start with FK. What is FK? FK stands for Forward Kinematics, and the reason why it's called Forward Kinematics is because it involves moving the individual parts of a character's body in a sequential manner, starting from the base of the limb and moving towards the end or forward towards the end of the limb. For example, if you want to animate a character's arm, you would start by moving or rotating the shoulder joint, then the elbow joint, and then finally the wrist joint, in that order. That is FK. Now, what is IK? Well, IK, Inverse Kinematics, is called inverse because it involves inverting the usual order of how you would think about character movement. Rather than specifying the movements of each of its individual joints in the limb, you specify the position of the hand or the foot, depending on which limb you're using, and the software calculates the position and rotation of the joints necessary to achieve that position of the foot or hand. Now, why is it important to understand the utility of both IK and FK? Here is the big takeaway I want you to have from this video. Don't let the magic of IK fool you into leaving behind FK. Look, I get it. Before I ever heard of tools like Duik or Limber, I attempted to animate characters by just parenting several different layers together in a chain and then keyframing the rotation of each layer. However, if you've ever done it this way, you know that it is or can be difficult to animate complex movements, especially any movements that involve interaction with an object or the environment. When you discover your first tool for rigging characters, it can feel like magic. Watching a limb magically bend and rotate by simply moving around a controller can feel like straight up wizardry. Also, by rigging your limbs, you've cut down the number of keyframes you have to manage by 3 times. Why would you ever go back to the old way of keyframing each joint? But here's the thing, FK has its utilities and there are still scenarios where FK will produce a better result than IK. Let's go over some of those scenarios so that you can determine when you should use FK and when you should use IK. Now, one of my favorite examples to show how FK can sometimes be a better, less complicated option than IK is in a simple waving animation. To illustrate this, I want to highlight some of the annoying aspects of trying to create this animation with IK. The first step is to block out the animation. So I'll start with my character's arm down by their side, and then I'll raise it to the first position, and then I'll move it back and forth to create the waving animation, and then I'll place it back down to its original position. Now, if we play this back, there's clearly some issues that we need to correct. But setting aside the obvious things like adjusting the easing, because even when we do that, the animation still looks off. And that's due because easing isn't the only thing that makes an animation look natural. We need to be animating with arcs, which is one of the 12 principles of animation, and that will help our animation look more natural. And you might think that's an easy fix, just go and add arcs to all your motion paths. But this gets tricky because we have several keyframes that are on top of each other in this waving animation. So it becomes hard to know which keyframe you're selecting in your composition window. So we'll select the keyframes down the timeline instead, and then make the corrections to the motion path, making sure not to grab both Bezier handles on the motion path, as we don't want to stretch out the motion path beyond our keyframes. This whole thing is just a mess, and I don't like it. It's very easy to mess up, and it takes a lot of adjusting to make sure that you're getting your arcing motions just right. Now contrast that with how we'd accomplish the same animation with FK. I'll create my pose by creating keyframes on each joint, and then I'll create the waving animation and then back down, and then I'll slap some easing on those keyframes, and then I like to offset those keyframes from the shoulder down through the elbow and the wrist by 1 frame. That helps create a nice overlapping action in the motion of the limb. And it's already on an arcing path by default when I animate it by FK, because that's just how FK works. And not only did I spend less time on this animation, but in my opinion, it just looks better with a lot less effort, despite all the time I took adjusting the IK version to try to make it look good. Now, FK is ideal for any kind of swinging motion, like the swinging of the arms in a walk cycle. However, it can be very easy to think of swinging in a very isolated sense, but waving, kicking a ball, picking up the phone, swimming, these are all what I consider swinging motions. However, like I mentioned before, FK is not ideal for interactions with objects or the environment. This is where IK shines. The most poignant example of this is in a walk cycle, where your character is interacting with the ground. As your character takes each step, their foot needs to make contact with the ground and stay there, planted on the ground, as the other foot moves forward and the rest of the character bobs up and down. This way of letting the computer calculate how much each joint needs to rotate in order for the foot to stay in that position is way more efficient than you doing it yourself. Anytime your character needs to interact with another object or the environment, you'd ideally want to use IK rather than FK. So some examples would be 2 characters shaking hands, climbing, jumping, riding a bicycle. IK is also useful anytime you need your hand or your foot to be in a very precise location. Now, with all that being said, there are also times when it is necessary to switch between FK and IK or vice versa within the same animation. Take, for example, this animation. If I solo the FK properties, you can see I switch back and forth a couple of times. This is because certain parts of this animation were better suited for FK, like the raising of the arms, but then when the character is swiping and interacting with the hologram, I needed the hand to be in a very specific positions, so I switched over to IK. Having a tool like Limber that makes switching between these 2 modes seamless is super important for me as a character animator, because it allows me to take full advantage of the character's movement and create a truly dynamic animation. Now, if you want to learn more about how to accurately determine when to use either FK or IK, or if you want to learn more about the process of how to switch between IK and FK seamlessly, this is something that I cover in depth in my course, Character Animation Launchpad, which, by the way, we just opened enrollment for today. This is a 6-week course where I teach each lesson live every week so that you can ask me questions and receive answers in real time. Because look, I'm an impatient person, so there is nothing more aggravating to me than having to wait hours to get an answer to my questions. That's why I've decided to teach this course live. This course also consists of several animation exercises or assignments that you can submit to me that I will review, and I will provide you detailed feedback with actionable insights to help you improve your animations. This course is perfect if you're just starting to dip your toes in the realm of character animation, or if you've tried character animation before but just felt that it was too overwhelming. We break character animation down into small, easy to tackle steps that give you a reliable process that you can follow to create killer character animations that your clients will love, and I can promise you that. I've left a link in the description below if you want to check it out and see if it's something that would fit for you. Don't wait too long though to enroll, because spots are limited. One of the big parts of this course is the amount of detailed feedback I try to give each student who fully participates in the course. My reviews are not 5-minute videos where I skim your animation, give you some generic pointers. I provide real, actionable insights by breaking open your project file and showing you exactly how to improve your animations. Because of this though, unless I want to spend all my time reviewing animations, I have to limit the number of students who can enroll. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, click the link, go check it out, see what you think. So in conclusion, both IK and FK are important for character animations, and I would go so far as to say that they're equally important. Knowing when to use both IK and FK and how to effectively use each one is a hallmark of a skilled character animator. And on the contrary, I can almost immediately spot a beginner animator by their over-reliance on IK and their underuse or complete negligence of FK. So what do you think? Do you use FK? Is it important to you? Is this your first time hearing these terms? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments section below. And that does it for this week's video. I hope you learned something new. If you did, join me in my quest to conquer the YouTube algorithm and hit that like button so YouTube knows that other people will enjoy this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button with the bell notification turned on so you're alerted the second a new video is up. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye now.